The old mansion stood on the far side of Mapletown, where the road became quiet and the streetlights ended. People called it the Grey Mansion, not because it was painted grey, but because it always looked sad, like the color had soaked into the air around it. Tall iron gates guarded the front, but the gates were bent and tired. Rust covered the bars like rough skin. One side hung lower than the other, and the lock had been gone for years. Behind the gate, a stone path led to the front door, but the path was cracked and uneven. Grass grew through the gaps, and weeds pushed up like they owned the place. The mansion itself was huge. It had 3 floors, wide balconies, and windows shaped like arches. But most of the windows were broken. Some had wooden boards nailed over them. Others were open, letting wind and rain walk in freely. The roof had dark spots where tiles had fallen. In strong wind, the loose parts made a soft tapping sound, like fingers drumming on an old table. Everyone in town knew the mansion. Everyone avoided it. Parents warned their children, "Do not go near that place." Shop owners crossed the street when they passed it. Taxi drivers refused to stop near the gate. Even the mailman did not bother. People said the mansion was full of trouble. Some said it was unsafe. Some said it had secrets best left alone. Some spoke in low voices about strange noises at night, though no one could prove it. The truth was simple. The mansion looked ruined, and ruined places made people uncomfortable. It reminded them that life could fall apart. So the mansion stayed empty. For years, the town office tried to get rid of it. They posted announcements on boards near the market. They put notices in local papers. They even tried an auction twice. Still, nobody wanted it. Free, the notice said. Not cheap. Not discounted. Free. But people still said no. In Mapletown, free things often came with hidden problems, and everyone believed this mansion was the biggest example. One evening, a man named Ravi walked down the road near the mansion. Ravi was in his mid-30s. He was not tall, not short, just average, like someone you might forget in a crowd. His hair was neat but always looked a little tired, like it did not have time to be perfect. His hands were rough from work, and his shoulders carried a weight that did not come from his tool bag. Ravi was a single father. He lived in a small rented room behind a grocery shop. The room had one window, one fan that made loud sounds, and a small corner where he cooked simple meals. Some nights, the rain was so heavy that water slipped through cracks in the roof. Ravi kept a bucket under the leak and emptied it again and again. His son, a man, was 10 years old. A man was bright and curious, with quick eyes that noticed everything. He did not complain much, even when things were hard. But sometimes he asked questions that made Ravi pause, because the questions were honest and simple. That evening, a man walked beside his father, holding a school bag and a small bottle of water. Ravi had just finished his shift at the repair shop. He fixed bikes, small machines, and broken tools. The pay was not great, but it was steady. They were walking home when a man slowed down near the mansion gate. A man stared through the bars, then leaned closer. "It looks like a palace," a man said quietly. Ravi followed his gaze. The mansion did have a kind of old beauty, even under all the damage. The shape was grand. The stones were strong. The pillars at the entrance looked like they had once been polished. Ravi could imagine it in its best days, full of light and clean floors. "People say it is dangerous," Ravi said. A man frowned. "Why does nobody fix it?" Ravi did not answer right away. He had asked himself the same thing many times. Mapletown was not rich, but it was not helpless either. People repaired houses. They rebuilt shops after storms. They helped each other when someone got sick. But the mansion stayed as it was, like it had been pushed out of the town's heart. "Because it costs too much," Ravi said. "And because people fear it." A man looked up at him. "Fear of what?" Ravi gave a small smile, the kind that was more tired than happy. "Fear of problems." A man looked back at the mansion again. "It looks lonely." Those words stayed with Ravi long after they left. That night, after dinner, a man fell asleep quickly. Ravi sat near the window and listened to the street outside. A motorbike passed. A dog barked once. Somewhere far away, a train horn sounded. Ravi counted his money again. He always did that at night, hoping the numbers would change if he looked long enough. Rent, school fees, food, water, electricity. Everything took a piece. He leaned back against the wall and closed his eyes. He did not need a palace. He did not need luxury. He needed space. He needed safety. He needed a place that felt like home for a man. Then a thought entered his mind, simple but bold. The mansion is free. Ravi opened his eyes and stared at the ceiling. The idea felt foolish at first. Why would he take something nobody wanted? Why would he step into a problem that others avoided? But another thought followed it. What if everyone is wrong? Ravi had learned something from years of fixing broken things. People often threw away items that only needed patience. A machine that did not start could still work again. A bike with a bent wheel could still ride. A cracked table could still hold weight if repaired properly. Maybe a ruined mansion was the same. The next morning, Ravi went to the town office before work. The building was small and plain, with dusty fans and old chairs lined along the wall. A clerk sat behind a desk, looking bored. Ravi cleared his throat. "I want to ask about the grey mansion." The clerk lifted an eyebrow. "Why?" "I want it," Ravi said. For a second, the clerk thought Ravi was joking. Then he saw Ravi's face. Ravi's eyes were serious. "You know it is free because it is a burden," the clerk said. "No support from the town. No money for repairs. No complaints later." "I understand," Ravi replied. The clerk leaned back. "Have you seen the inside?" "Not yet," Ravi admitted. The clerk shook his head slowly. "Most people do not even want to step on the land. You will need to sign papers. It will be in your name. After that, it is your problem." Ravi nodded again. "That is fine." The clerk opened a drawer and pulled out a folder, thick with old documents. The file looked like it had been touched many times but never finished. "This place has been passed around like an unwanted gift," the clerk muttered. "There are forms, ownership records, and a legal note that the town is not responsible for what happens there." Ravi listened carefully. He asked questions. He read what he could. His reading was not perfect, but he understood enough. He could also feel the clerk watching him like Ravi was making a mistake. Finally, Ravi signed. The pen felt heavy in his hand, not because it weighed much, but because the decision did. When he finished, the clerk stamped the papers and pushed a small key toward him. "This key opens the front gate," the clerk said. "If it still works." Ravi took the key and thanked him. He walked out of the office with a strange feeling in his chest, like fear and hope were holding hands. After school that day, Ravi brought a man to the mansion. A man's eyes shone. "Are we going inside?" "Yes," Ravi said. "But we will be careful." The gate creaked when Ravi pushed it. It moved with effort, like it had not been opened in a long time. The stone path felt damp and cold under their feet. Leaves were scattered everywhere, and the air smelled like wet earth and old wood. They reached the front door. The door was huge and carved with patterns that had faded. One handle was missing. Ravi pushed gently, and the door opened with a long, low groan. Inside, the mansion was darker than Ravi expected. Dust floated in the air, catching the thin light that entered through broken windows. The floor was covered in dirt, leaves, and small pieces of glass. The walls had stains from rain. Some paint had peeled off in long strips, like the mansion was shedding its skin. A man stepped in slowly, holding Ravi's hand. "It is big," a man whispered. Ravi looked around. The entrance hall was wide, with a staircase that split into two paths. A chandelier hung from the ceiling, but it was covered in dust and missing parts. There were doors leading to many rooms. The mansion felt like a sleeping giant. They walked carefully. In one room, there was an old sofa with torn fabric. In another, there were shelves built into the wall, empty now. The kitchen had broken cabinets and a sink filled with dead leaves. Upstairs, there were bedrooms with cracked mirrors and curtains that hung like tired cloth. A man's footsteps echoed softly. "Do you think we can live here?" a man asked. Ravi hesitated. He wanted to say yes quickly. He wanted to make a man feel safe. But Ravi had learned not to lie, even when lying seemed kinder. "We can try," Ravi said. A man nodded, like trying was enough. They returned downstairs and walked toward the back of the mansion. There, Ravi found a small room that looked less damaged than the others. It had one window that was not broken, and the floor was more stable. "This can be our first room," Ravi said. A man smiled. "Our base." Ravi laughed softly. "Yes, our base." They stood there for a moment, hearing only the wind outside and the quiet creaks of the mansion settling. Then a sudden sound made them both freeze. A soft thump. It came from somewhere deeper inside the house. A man's fingers tightened around Ravi's hand. What was that? Ravi listened carefully. The mansion was old. It could be wood shifting. It could be something falling. It could be wind pushing through a broken window. Still, Ravi felt his heart beat faster. "It is probably nothing," Ravi said, though he kept his voice calm on purpose. "But we will not explore everything today." A man nodded quickly. They walked back toward the front hall. As they passed the old study, Ravi noticed something strange. One side of the wall had a large bookshelf, dusty and half-broken, but it looked cleaner at the bottom than the rest of the room. Like it had been moved at some point. Ravi stopped, staring at it. A man noticed. "What is it?" Ravi did not answer. He walked closer and placed his hand on the shelf. It felt solid. He pushed gently. It did not move. He pushed again, harder. The shelf shifted just a little, making a low scraping sound against the floor. A man's eyes widened. It moved. Ravi stepped back, surprised. He looked behind the shelf, but the gap was too small to see clearly. Dust fell as the shelf moved. Ravi did not push it further. Not yet. Something about it felt important, and Ravi did not want to rush. He looked at a man and forced a steady smile. "We will come back to this later." As they stepped outside, the evening sky turned orange and pink. The mansion looked almost peaceful under the soft light, like it was pretending to be normal. A man walked beside Ravi, quiet for once. "Baba," a man said, using the word gently, "I think this house is hiding something." Ravi looked back at the mansion. He did not know what was hiding inside those walls. But he could feel it. This was not just a ruined place. This was the start of something that could change everything. The next morning, Ravi woke up before the sun. His body felt heavy, but his mind was awake. The memory of the mansion stayed with him through the night. The broken walls. The quiet rooms. The bookshelf that moved. He sat on the edge of the bed and looked at a man who was still sleeping. A man's face was calm. Ravi felt a deep responsibility settle in his chest. Whatever decision he made now would shape their future. After breakfast, Ravi took a man to school as usual. He did not mention the mansion. He wanted a man to focus on his studies, not on dusty rooms and strange sounds. When a man waved goodbye and ran inside the school gate, Ravi turned back toward the town. Instead of going to work, Ravi went straight to the mansion. The road felt longer than before. His steps slowed as he reached the gate. The key still worked. The gate opened with the same tired sound. Inside, the mansion felt colder in the morning. Light entered through the broken windows, revealing more dust and damage than before. Ravi walked slowly, checking the floors, tapping weak boards with his foot. He moved like a man who had learned to be careful. He started cleaning. He picked up broken glass, old wood, and fallen stones. He opened windows that were not stuck. Fresh air moved inside, carrying the smell of trees and wet soil. Slowly, the mansion felt less heavy. Hours passed. By noon, Ravi's shirt was soaked with sweat. His hands were black with dust. He sat down on the floor of the small room they had chosen as their base. He drank water and rested. That was when his eyes went back to the study. The bookshelf. Ravi stood up and walked toward it. The room was quiet. Sunlight came through a narrow window, lighting the shelf from one side. The books were old, their covers faded and torn. Some had no names left on them. Ravi placed both hands on the shelf and pushed. It moved again. This time, it moved more easily. His heart beat faster. He pushed until there was enough space to see behind it. There was a metal surface hidden in the wall. A door. The door was square and dark, with a simple handle and a lock that looked older than the mansion itself. Dust covered it, but the edges were clean, like it had been opened many years ago. Ravi stepped back. He did not open it right away. He had learned that rushing often led to mistakes. That evening, Ravi returned with a man. A man ran inside, excited. "Can I help clean today?" "Yes," Ravi said. "But stay where I can see you." They worked together. A man swept floors and gathered small pieces of trash. Ravi fixed one broken window using plastic sheets and tape. It was not perfect, but it stopped the wind. After some time, Ravi brought a man to the study. "I found something," Ravi said calmly. A man's eyes lit up. "Is it a secret?" "Maybe," Ravi replied. "But we must be careful." They stood in front of the shelf. Ravi pushed it aside slowly. A man held his breath. The metal door was fully visible now. A man whispered, "What is behind it?" Ravi shook his head. "We do not know." The lock was old and rusted. Ravi pulled gently. It broke easily. The door opened with a low sound, like air escaping. Behind it was darkness. A small set of stone steps led downward. A man stepped closer, but Ravi stopped him. "We do not go down today," Ravi said. "Not without light and preparation." A man nodded, though his curiosity was clear. That night, Ravi barely slept. The next day was a holiday, so a man stayed home. Ravi borrowed a flashlight from a neighbor and returned to the mansion with a man after lunch. They stood in front of the hidden door again. Ravi turned on the flashlight and took the first step down. The air was cooler underground. The walls were stone, smooth and solid. The steps were old but strong. Ravi counted them quietly as he walked. At the bottom, the stairs opened into a large room. A man gasped. The room was wide and clean compared to the rest of the mansion. Thick stone walls surrounded it. Wooden shelves lined the sides. Old lamps hung from the ceiling, though they no longer worked. On the shelves were boxes. Many boxes. Some were wooden. Some were metal. All of them were carefully arranged. Ravi walked closer and touched one box. It was heavy. He opened it slowly. Inside were sealed packets wrapped in cloth. He opened one. Gold bars. Ravi froze. A man stared, unable to speak. They opened another box. Then another. More gold. Old documents. Thick folders with writing. Sealed bags. Coins. Certificates. Ravi sat down on the stone floor, his legs weak. A man whispered, "Baba, what is this?" Ravi took a deep breath. His hands were shaking, but his mind was sharp. "This is not ours yet," Ravi said. "We must understand everything." They spent hours reading what they could. The documents were old but clear. They spoke of land, businesses, and accounts from long ago. The names belonged to a powerful family that had vanished from the town decades earlier. A final document listed values. The number was too large to believe. $200 million. A man looked at Ravi with wide eyes. "Are we rich?" Ravi did not smile. "Money is powerful," Ravi said slowly. "But it can also destroy. We must be honest." That night, Ravi locked the hidden room and moved the bookshelf back into place. He did not tell anyone. The next weeks were tense. Ravi contacted a lawyer in the city. He showed the documents quietly. The lawyer was shocked but careful. Everything was checked. Records were matched. Old files were pulled from archives. Every result pointed to the same truth. The assets were real. And because Ravi legally owned the mansion, everything inside it belonged to him. News spread slowly at first, then all at once. People began to gather near the mansion gate. They whispered. They pointed. Some smiled. Some looked angry. Some suddenly remembered Ravi's name. Reporters came. Ravi refused interviews. He focused on a man. "Your life does not change overnight," Ravi told him. "You stay kind. You stay honest." A man listened carefully. The town office called Ravi for a meeting. Officials asked questions. They looked at papers again and again. They found nothing wrong. One official said, "You are very lucky." Ravi replied, "I am careful." Soon, the mansion was no longer called the Grey Mansion. People called it Ravi's place. Workers arrived to help clean and repair. Ravi paid fair wages. He did not argue or cheat. He watched closely, learning every detail. Some people who once laughed at the mansion now asked for jobs. Ravi gave them work. A man returned to school with a new bag, but he kept the same friends. When someone asked him about the mansion, he said, "It is just our home." One evening, Ravi stood alone in the study, staring at the bookshelf. His life had changed, but his heart still carried the same weight. He knew this discovery was only the beginning. Money had entered his life. Now he had to decide what kind of man he would be with it. The mansion woke up before the town did. Every morning, the sound of hammers, brushes, and footsteps filled the air. Workers arrived early, carrying tools and simple lunches. Ravi greeted each one by name. He listened to their concerns. He paid them on time. He worked beside them whenever he could, not because he had to, but because he wanted to remember who he was. The walls of the mansion slowly changed color. Broken windows were replaced. The roof stopped leaking. The garden that once looked wild began to breathe again. Old trees were trimmed. New plants were added. The iron gate was fixed but kept simple, not fancy, not proud. A man watched everything with wide eyes. After school, he did his homework in a quiet room that once held dust and broken chairs. He helped small ways, handing tools, carrying water, sweeping corners. He listened when adults talked. He learned how plans were made and how problems were solved. Ravi made one rule very clear. The hidden room stayed locked. Not because he was afraid, but because he wanted time. He knew money could rush people into mistakes. He wanted every step to be clean and honest. The lawyer helped Ravi place the money safely. Investments were checked carefully. Nothing was rushed. Ravi refused offers that sounded too good to be true. He had fixed enough broken machines to know that shortcuts often ended badly. People in town changed their behavior. Some greeted Ravi with respect. Some avoided him. Some tried to act friendly even though they had ignored him before. Ravi noticed everything but reacted calmly. He had learned that power did not need loud answers. One afternoon, the town head visited the mansion. "I never thought anyone would fix this place," the man said while looking around. Ravi replied, "Things last longer when someone believes in them." The town head nodded slowly. "You could move to the city. Buy something better." Ravi smiled gently. "This town raised me. I will not leave it behind." Soon, Ravi announced his first project. The east wing of the mansion would become a learning center. Children from poor families could come after school. There would be books, tutors, and warm meals. No fees. No pressure. Some people doubted him. Others laughed quietly. Ravi did not argue. He built. The learning center opened on a bright morning. Children walked in slowly, unsure at first. A man welcomed them. He showed them the shelves of books. He showed them the tables and chairs. He showed them the kitchen where food was prepared. Within weeks, the rooms were full of voices and laughter. Parents watched from outside, surprised. Ravi stood near the door, silent and steady. The clinic came next. The town clinic had old beds and broken machines. Ravi funded repairs. New equipment arrived. Doctors were hired. Treatment became affordable. A nurse once asked Ravi why he was doing all this. Ravi answered simply, "Because I know how it feels to wait for help that never comes." As the months passed, the mansion became a symbol. Not of wealth. Of change. A man grew stronger and more confident. He joined a science club at school. He asked questions about buildings, energy, and machines. Ravi noticed his interest and encouraged it. One evening, a man asked, "Baba, are we rich now?" Ravi thought carefully before answering. "We have more than before," Ravi said. "But rich means something else." "What does it mean?" a man asked. Ravi looked at the lights inside the mansion. Children were studying. Workers were laughing during a break. The garden was alive. "It means you can help without fear," Ravi said. A man nodded slowly. News of the mansion reached beyond the town. Visitors came from nearby cities. Some came to learn. Some came to offer business deals. Ravi accepted a few partnerships that matched his values. He rejected the rest. One night, Ravi finally opened the hidden room again. A man stood beside him. They did not feel shock anymore. They felt responsibility. Ravi reorganized everything. A portion of the wealth was set aside for a man's education. Another portion was secured for long-term community projects. The rest was managed carefully. Ravi wrote everything down. He believed clear records protected people. One rainy evening, a man from the town came to Ravi. "I laughed when you took this place," the man admitted. "I was wrong." Ravi nodded. "We all learn." The man hesitated. "Can my daughter study here?" Ravi smiled. "Yes." Time passed. Years passed. A man grew taller. His voice deepened. He studied engineering. During holidays, he returned home and worked on new projects. Solar panels were added to the mansion roof. Water systems were improved. The learning center expanded. Ravi watched his son with quiet pride. One evening, Ravi sat alone on the front steps. His hair had threads of gray now. His hands were still rough, but his back was straighter. A man sat beside him. "This place was ruined," a man said. "Now it feels alive." Ravi nodded. "It always had life. It just needed care." A man looked at the mansion walls glowing softly under the lights. "Do you ever regret taking it?" A man asked. Ravi smiled. "No," he said. "Because I did not take a mansion. I took a chance." The town celebrated the anniversary of the learning center. Children performed. Parents thanked Ravi. The town head gave a short speech. But Ravi did not stand on stage. He stood among the people. Because that was where he belonged. The mansion that nobody wanted became a place everyone respected. And the poor father who dared to believe became a man known not for the money he found, but for the future he built.